Good evening. It is Wednesday, and this is your Wednesday Wellness Live. I got the title right. Welcome. Hello. If you've not been here before, my name is Kevin Guthrie. I am a coach and a psychotherapist. I'm working alongside a Newark and Shower District Council to promote wellness in the area and, of course, across the country, because you can watch this from wherever you are. So, welcome to the room. Myself and Newark and Newark and Shower District Council last September decided we wanted to do something to help people get through the winter period. We started the lives in October. We tended to go for 4 weeks, and here we are, uh, almost at the end of February, still going, and we plan to go until the end of March now. So after tonight, we have four more shows. Okay, four more shows. Mixed bag tonight. Mixed bag of things that we're gonna look at tonight. I want to look at journaling. I talk about journaling quite a lot in therapy, and I thought I would spend a little bit of time talking about what journaling is and why it's so good for us. And also, I wanted to look at some of the science behind journaling, because I'm aware that it's really, really good for us, but actually I hadn't done any studies on it and worked out why it was so good. So I've done that. We're going to look at that a little bit later. So last week we looked at happiness. Felt like a massive, massive subject. At points it felt slightly misunderstood. But I think that's happiness. Happiness is really, really misunderstood, isn't it? It's like we reach for and we search for and we want happiness. And yes, what is happiness? So last week I wanted to really tap into happiness and work out what it was. Can you just let me know that you can hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up in the feed, and then I'll know that all my sound is going through perfectly. So we're going to look at happiness. No, we're not going to look at happiness. We did that last week. But the question on the screen I'm going to get to in a minute. We're going to look at journaling, and we're going to look at resilience. And then I've got some questions that people have sent in that I want to tackle a little bit later on as well. In the feed, if you've got a question, then fire it away to me. You can ask me anything you want about mental health and wellness, and I will do my best to answer. Okay? Right. Last week, what did you learn? What was your takeaway from the happiness session? I'll go first. My takeaway was that planning a holiday or a break uh, can the happiness you get from that, or the satisfaction you get from that, can last up to like 8 weeks. I found that absolutely fascinating. I thought it was incredible. I had no idea. I kind of knew that planning holidays was great fun, but I didn't think it would be like up to 8 weeks. So in the study, it said that the happiness and contentment you get from planning a holiday lasts longer than the holiday itself. How amazing is that? So when we look back at last week and we looked at happiness and contentment and what happiness was and where you get it from, can you buy it from Tesco's? We tried to unpick it a little bit. So what was your takeaway? What was the one thing that you learned last week about happiness? I'm really, really curious to know. Let me know. Pop it into the feed. Feed? What's that? And I'm also curious to ask how you felt about. Do I want to ask this question? Oh, do I want to ask this question? Go on and ask the question. How did you feel about what the announcement on Monday? Were you pleased with it? Did you expect more? Was it not enough? Was it too quick? How are you feeling about that? Okay. I'm laughing at the feed because on my feed it keeps saying Julie Morgan is watching. I've had about 6 now saying Julie Morgan's. I know, Julie, I know you're there. You don't need to keep logging out. So, what did you learn from the happiness session last week? What was your number one takeaway from that? Okay. And I've got different slides to that, so I'm going to move on. Actually, I'm not going to move to that one yet. I'm going to get back to that one. We're going to dip in and out of journaling. So journaling for me, let me explain it in my terms first. Journaling for me is a series of getting a pen and paper. You can do it into your phone, but there's science to prove that pen to paper is way more powerful. So pad, and then you write down you start to log your feelings. So I don't know, you might do it first thing in the morning. So first thing, this is a really nice way to journal actually. First thing in the morning, you sit down with your pad and you set yourself an intention. An intention is something that you intend on doing during the day. So you set your intention. So I don't know, your intention is, I'm going to be trying to be kind to everybody I meet. I'm going to try and give compliments to people. I'm going to take one specific person and tell them how grateful I am that they're in my world. I'm going to deep breathe five times today. Their intentions. So we wake up in the morning and we set our intention. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So with regards to Monday, I think it's too long to give us our freedom back. And I think when we look at the June date of June 21st, it might feel like a long way away. But I think from now until then, there will be a slow easing of restrictions. So I think, although everybody's looking at June 21st and going, yay, party, I think what will happen is there will be an easing, a gentle easing of, and we'll just start to feel this freedom that will come back. But I know where you're coming from. So journaling is pen and paper. Wake up in the morning, give yourself an intention, write it down. Get to the end of the day, pen and paper, 5 minutes, and write down how you found the day. And what journaling does is it helps us begin to clarify what sort of thoughts and feelings we've been having throughout the day. So I don't know, you might write about a little bit of a conflict that you've had with somebody. You might write about some of your stronger emotions that you've had during the day. So for me, that's journaling. It's powerful, and we're going to go into the science as to why it's so powerful. It's powerful because it literally helps us see it. When we're stuck in here, when we're stuck in our head, we've just got words and words and words and phrases and criticisms going around in our heads. It can be really hard to understand what's happening there. And it's so busy. When we write stuff down on paper, then it's far more effective in helping us understand what's happening. For example, I do a lot of in therapy. I'll ask people to write letters to people that they have conflict with, letters to people that they have passed that are not around anymore, letters to exes. The really cool thing about the letter writing is it generally doesn't go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. We're not passing the letter on. All we're doing is writing the letter. And when we write the letter, it allows us then to express. It allows us to take it away from here. Because if we're not expressing and we're not talking, then we get stuck here. All of that pent up emotion or sadness or whatever the emotion is gets stuck here. Okay? So when we take to writing, then therefore we can start to see it a little bit more clearly on paper, like in black and white. Spidergram is another one that I do. Spidergram we talked about the other week. So write your word in the middle, your strongest emotion, and then spidergram it from there out. There's just something really powerful about pen and paper. Let me read you this. Journaling can be effective for many reasons and help you reach a wide range of goals. It can help you clear your head, make important connections between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and even buffer or reduce the effects of mental illness. It's just really powerful. And it's even more powerful if you don't currently have the ability to work things out in your head, then it's really, really powerful. It's such a powerful way of beginning to understand. I think what it does after a while is it begins to train your mind into working it out in your head. So it's just really powerful. How can I use writing to increase mental health? Whether you're keeping a journal or writing as a meditation, it's the same thing. What's important is that you're having a relationship with your mind. I love that, a relationship with your mind. When we take to paper and when we begin to write things down, we are literally like creating almost like an external relationship with our mind. Because when we try and think about what's happening in our mind just by sitting here, it's not an external relationship, but when we take to paper, all of a sudden there's something tangible there. So I just love that quote when I found it. What's important is that you're having a relationship with your mind. Easing back will hopefully help us regain our confidence. I completely agree. We have four more of these shows left. Four. And on the last couple, I'm going to really focus on. So the last couple will be the back end of March. I'm really going to focus on people that will or may struggle to integrate themselves into the world around us. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking all levels. I'm thinking from somebody going to a shop, somebody might not have been into a shop for the last year, or somebody who, I don't know, is nervous about going to social gatherings, a pub or a party. There's going to be a lot of parties happen at the back end of this year. There just is. And of course, we get a choice whether we go or not, but I think there will be a lot of nerves around that. So the last two of these shows, I really, really want to tap into that anxiety and help people understand it and unpick it a little bit. Back to journaling. Hold on, let me just read this. Hi, Hadra. Monday made me feel a little anxious because I realised I have adjusted to seeing less people and would be overwhelmed in a larger group now. Another shift to work through, and I will. Absolutely, you will. Absolutely, you will, for definite. But I'm definitely going to focus on that in the last 2 weeks and see what resources I can bring into the room to help you all kind of navigate that last little bit there, just so as we can all go into the summer, and enjoy the summer, enjoy the sunshine, and enjoy being with other people. What will happen very, very naturally is our minds will become readjusted to social gatherings. That will happen quite naturally if we allow it to happen. There's a chance that we could block it or we could stop it in some way, but that will happen quite naturally. Back to journaling, because it's so powerful. You might be wondering why or how writing in a journal can have a significant impact on your mental health. After all, it's just putting some words on a page. How can that really be good for you? It turns out that this simple practice can do a lot, especially for those struggling with mental illness or striving towards more positive mental health. Journaling, I love this bit as well. Journaling requires the application of the analytical, rational left side of the brain, this side. While your left hemisphere, this side, is occupied, your right hemisphere, this side, the creative, touchy-feely side, so rational, analytical, this side, touchy-feeling, creative, is given freedom to wander and play, allowing your creativity to flourish and expand. And this can become cathartic and make a big difference to your daily well-being. So there is something really powerful in that writing. As this unfolds, I'm going to go through different kind of techniques on how you can journal effectively. Because what we want to do is we want to journal in a really, really effective way. We use the word effective. So a couple might be communicating together, but actually what we want is effective communication. We want them communicating in a way that it has a purpose or it has an outcome. It's like thinking effectively. So we can be thinking about the future or the past, but are we thinking about the future or the past in an effective way? Or are we just berating ourselves and driving ourselves into either anxiety or depression? Remember as well, I know I say this was a quote by Buddha. Somebody reminded me yesterday as I was recording the podcast that if we are sad, we are thinking about the past, and if we are anxious, then we are thinking about the future. And yes, we have to think about the future, so we have to plan it a little bit, and it's nice to plan sometimes, but when we think about the future and we go, what if, yeah, but, then that's not effective, and it's going to be bad for our mental health. If we're thinking about the past in terms of, oh, and this happened, and that happened, and she did this, and he did that, then that's not effective. It's not a process. In therapy, in psychotherapy, we often look at the past. It's one of the main places we go to. We always look at childhood, but we try to do it in a really, really effective way. Okay? So overall journaling and expressive writing has been found to boost your mood, enhance your sense of well-being, reduce symptoms of depression before an important event, like an exam, reduce intrusion and avoidance symptoms, improve your working memory, write in private and personalized space. It's free. That's free from distractions. Whenever I'm encouraging somebody to journal, I always say to them, please make sure that the journal can't be accessed by anybody. Please make sure it's locked away or it's just secure, because What we really do want is we want to be able to write with complete freedom, and we definitely don't want to be writing where we have to edit what we're saying for fear that somebody else is going to find it. Okay, so yeah, just make sure it's safe if you're going to do it. So it talks about writing consecutively. So make sure that you write consecutively for a days in advance. You can, if you want to journal and you want to do it 3 or 4 times a week, then that's fine. If you want to do it day after day, then that's absolutely fine. Do it in a way, but you're never going to get any benefit from journal, is what it's saying here. You're never going to get it just by journaling once. Journaling is a practice that we do. Okay, I'm talking about this, and I'd love to journal, but I do tend to be able to work things now. I tend to be able to work things out in my head a little bit better. Sorry, I was just reading the feed. I forget you're there sometimes. I'm just reading the feed in front of me. You're still there. Shout at me if you want to. Cooking whilst listening. Ooh, what are you cooking? Karen, I want to know what you're cooking. Not that I'm hungry or anything. Not that I'm hungry or anything, because some very kind soul delivered 6 cupcakes to the house today. And I would be lying if I didn't say one had already been demolished. So in this household today, there's been 2 things delivered. A beautiful tea of curry and rice, and even a dessert. And secondly, a tray of cupcakes. How lucky are we? Talk about gratitude. Acronym, right. So this is, I want you to remember this when you're going to do some journaling. So W, nearly went into song then. W stands for, what do you want to write about? Think about what's going on in your life, your current thoughts and feelings, what you're striving towards or trying to avoid right now. Give it a name and put it all on paper. R, review or reflect on it. I love a bit of reflection. Reflect on past events. Reflect on, I don't know, something that happened on Sunday. Journaling is brilliant for reflection, for looking back at an interaction between you and another and working out what was going on and just reflecting on it, and just allow yourself to write. This is what happens when we journal. We sit and we write, and we talk about what happened on Sunday, whatever the conflict was, and we just allow ourselves to write. And as we're doing that, our mind is just unfolding it very, very gently. We're not talking to anybody. There's no pressure. And it just begins to unfold a little bit. So it, again, really powerful. Once we reflect on whatever it was that happened on Sunday, for example, then we can then begin to understand what happened. But often what we do is we go through a bit of a conflict, or we go through a bit of a dynamic with somebody, and then what we do is we just move forward and get out of it. But if we reflect and if we go back and we look at it in a little bit more detail and let it unfold gently, then we can learn from it. Everything has a lesson. Everything we do, everything we go through in life has a lesson attached to it. And more often than not, we miss the lesson because we're too busy running forward, surviving what it is that we've just survived. So our review or reflect on it. Take a few moments to be still, calm your breath, and focus. A little mindfulness or meditation could help with this step. Try to start sentences with I statements like I feel, I want, and I think. Also try to keep them in the present tense with sentence stems like today, right now, or in this moment. When we use I statements, we are owning the statement that we're writing down. The mindfulness or the meditation or the deep breathing that they talked about there helps ground us, helps lower the energy in our mind, so therefore we have more access to the unconscious. Imagine that you have the conscious mind and the unconscious mind here, and there's like a barrier between, and it's like an energy. And when we deep breathe or we meditate or we do any of those kind of practices, we clear the barrier, and that allows us access to the unconscious mind. It's the unconscious mind where we have information that we really want. That's where the Freudian slips come from. But the energy it just gets in the way. So a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of deep breathing helps. So if you're going to sit down and journal, then do this thing where you sit feet on the ground, and you just deep breathe in and out 10 times. Outward breath longer than the inward breath, because it does something to the mind. I don't know. But there is a really good podcast that was released on Monday. You can find it on my Facebook wall, that was with a breathwork practitioner. Really, really fascinating guy. And he practices breathworks, he teaches breathworks and meditation. So go along and listen to that, because it was a really, really interesting conversation. I've recorded 2 podcasts this week, both really interesting. Next Monday's is nutrition. So delved into nutrition in a greater way. So that's really interesting. And then the week after, it goes somewhere else. We talk about cold therapy in the one after. and I committed to having a cold shower this morning. I will tell you that I turned it on to cold and pushed it onto my arm. That's what I could do. So I was stood in the shower, it's freezing cold, and I'm like this, hoping it doesn't get me. And that's as much as I could do, but I'm going to try and go for cold therapy showers. We'll talk about that another time. Spaghetti and meatballs in tomato sauce. Oh, nice. That sounds nice. I'll be around at 8:10. Investigate your thoughts and feelings. We're still going through the right acronym here. Investigate your thoughts and feelings through your writing. Just keep going. If you feel you have run out of things to write, or your mind starts to wander, take a moment to refocus. Another opportunity for mindful meditation. So again, just breathe, slow it down and breathe. Don't stress because you haven't got anything to write, just breathe. Read over what you have just written and then continue, because sometimes when we read over, then we start to ignite the mind again, and then more information comes. T, time for yourself to ensure that you write for at least 5 minutes. Write down your start time and the projected end time based on your goal at the top of your page. Set a timer or alarm to go off when the period is up. What does it say there? Time period when you're, I don't know. E, last letter in the acronym. Exit. Strategically and with introspection. They were big words to be said at this time of night. Read what you have written and take a moment to reflect on it. Sum up your takeaway in 1 or 2 sentences, starting with statements like, as I read this, I notice, I am aware of, or how I feel. We're always trying to tap into those feelings. If you have any actions, items, or steps you would like to take next, write them down now, because then it logs it for next time. See what's in the feed. Right, I'm going to move this slide on because there's a quote that I want to share with you. And then I'm going to ask you your opinion on said quote. I'm going to read it to you first before I move the slide across. So, this is one of... No, I don't want to say that. You are not responsible for the programming you received. Oh my goodness, I spelled that wrong. You are not responsible for the programming you received when you were young. However, as an adult, you are 100% responsible for the choices you make. Let me read that again. Sorry about the your faux pas. You are not responsible for the programming you received when you were young. However, as an adult, you are 100% responsible for the choices you make. How do we feel about that quote? Do we like it? Do we agree with it? Do we disagree with it? Be honest. Be absolutely honest. Tell me how you feel about that quote right there. Just move it up. It will catch the dark a little bit more. You're not responsible for the programming you received when you were young. However, as an adult, you are 100% responsible for the choices you make. Do we agree with that, or do we not agree with it? No worries, Lindsay. Lindsay's just putting the kids to bed. Carol, 2 binary on the quote. Katie Marie's put empowered. Totally agree. So really interesting quote. It's one that I use when I deliver workplace wellness into like corporate settings. I use this as a like a litmus test, I think is the phrase, in terms of I use it to measure the room and I use it to work out who's in the room, so to speak. Uh, okay, it's going down pretty well. A lot of people agree with it. The part that quite often people argue with is the as an adult you are 100% responsible for the choices you make. It's that part people really struggle with. And I think somebody might have put too binary, and I think that's what you might have been referring to. It's too here and here, because that's how it feels. Not responsible when you're younger, but as you're older, then you are 100%. It's that part there that gets people 100% responsible for the choices you make. It's such a difficult one, and the word choices, which I use all the time, is such a hard one to digest. I like that. You use what you learn when you are young. As an adult, you learn to test and transition as necessary. Transition learning, absolutely you do. Absolutely you do. The thing is about the quote is we quite often, not quite often, but often sometimes as adults, we can do this thing where we can look back at childhood and blame childhood and blame our current behaviour as fully functioning adults on our childhood. And actually, it's that part there that I struggle with a little bit, because I'm like, we're adult now, we can make different choices, but we can only make different choices if we see what it is that we want to change. Okay. I love this. I love this quote, and I'm really pleased. It's created so much conversation. I love this. I agree that as adults we are responsible for our choices. However, not everyone has the ability, support, knowledge to make their choices they would like to make. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And what I encourage people to do is to, whenever I talk about choices is one of my absolute favourite word. It's about the tiny little choices that we make that I feel can have a bigger effect on our lives than we think it can. For example, if I choose to drink 4 coffees in one day, then I know that I'm going to be bouncing off the walls, and I know that I will have less control over my thinking and therefore behaviours than I would if I'd not had the 4 coffees. So therefore, do I make the choice to only have 1 coffee or have a decaffeinated coffee? That choice is mine, and it's that part there that I want to get across. I completely agree that sometimes there are situations, but honestly, nearly all of the time, when we look at it deeper, there is a choice to be made. That's not to say this is also really important. That's not to say that some of the choices are way hard, because they are. It's like a choice to, I don't know, pull away from somebody that is unhealthy in your world, particularly if it's a significant other, particularly if it's a family member, particularly if it's a loved one like a mum or a dad. And then all of a sudden we get to a point where we go, they're not healthy for us, for me, and I need to step away. That becomes difficult. It's still a choice, but just because the quote says we are 100% responsible, it doesn't mean to say that some of the choices are going to be really easy, because honestly, they are not going to be easy. Some of them, whether I drink too much coffee or not, is easy, but others are a lot easier to make. Manny has put 100% agree for me. I've been having that very conversation with my sister this week. We differ a bit on it as siblings. That's interesting. But don't you often do that? Don't you? I come from a family of 7, and often as siblings' experience is very different to our experience. And sometimes people struggle to understand that. And what I say to them is, well, our parents are growing and developing as they are giving birth to children. So almost like every 2 or 3 years when a new child comes along, they could be a different version of, and certainly when I look at my mum and dad, they would have been different parents for me and my brother, who are the youngest, to my first brother, who's the oldest, I think he's 70 next year. So there's such a big age gap, and you know what I mean, like almost 20 years age gap between him and me and my younger brother. So therefore, our parents would have been 20 years difference in who they were. So therefore, their input as parents would have been different. And when you think of it like that, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They're changing and evolving all the time, so their parenting styles might be changing and evolving, or not, or not. Do you know what I mean? Thank you for that. Thank you for the conversation around that. I just read one more comment. Shirtsport, I agree. Sometimes we end up in situations that are beyond our control. Beyond our control, though. Even in those situations, most of the time, it's up to us how we respond. Good point. I'm glad that you pointed that out. Often, it is about our response. I'm going to go back to that comment. Here's my analogy on choices. Here's an analogy that I use on choices, given that we're talking about choices, and then I'll go back to journaling. I'm walking down the street, and then some person comes up and slaps me really, really hard across the face. And I'm like, whoa, what? What just happened? I'm going to be confused, upset, a little bit angry, a little bit sad. A whole range of emotions are going to go that will happen automatically. That part's important. They will rush through my body because somebody's just attacked me. The person that slaps me walks away. They're gone. My automatic reaction to all of the emotions is going to happen. It's just going to happen. But then I get a choice. And this is where choices really come into their own. Do I carry all of those emotions? Because I'm not getting any answers. That person's gone. They have gone. They're getting on with their life. In fact, they were skipping down the street. And the next time I saw them, they were drunk in a bar having a great time. I matter not one dot to them. But then I get a choice. And here's the important part. I get a choice because then I get to choose whether I carry the emotions or whether I let go. I'm just grabbing a cushion. Grabbing a cushion that needs my little pilling machine on it. So it's like they come up and slap me. Try not to catch my mic. And then all of these emotions I get, like here. And then I get a choice to whether I carry this cushion or not. Am I going to carry this or am I going to let it go? And actually now, so we can carry those emotions for an hour, 3 hours, a day, a week, a month, a year. And some people do. Some people a year on are still banging on about the person that slapped them because there was no answers. Because there's no resolve in the mind. That's the difficulty. There's no resolve there. And that's the part people struggle with. If there's no resolve, how can we possibly let go of it? It's like couples that break up and there's no definitive answer or reason as to why the breakup's happening. So one is left very, very confused. This cushion, we get to choose what we do with it. And I choose now to put it down because I don't want to carry all of that emotion that has been generated by my body, but by somebody else's actions, but they've gone. Does that make sense? In that moment right there, I get a choice. I get a choice as to whether I continue with those emotions because I'm not getting an answer. I have no answer. I have no idea why that person chose to just attack me in that way. So that's my analogy on that. I hope that makes sense. I had to pull away from my dead partner's parents because they became very toxic towards me. That's really hard, when we have to pull away from somebody that is integrated into our families. It's hard. It's just hard to do that. But we have to do what is right for our well-being, and that's where the choices thing becomes really difficult. Because sometimes we have to make a choice based on our well-being, but actually the choice isn't good for the well-being of somebody else. That's where it becomes really hard because then we really have to think about what we're doing. But if they were toxic or they're not fluff from the cushion, if they're not healthy or helpful in your world, then they kind of have to go. And particularly, can I say, when it gets to the point of it is compromising your mental health. When it's compromising your mental health, then seriously, they have to go. Or what I do in my world, and have done for a lot of years, is I gently step back. Gently step back from whoever it is, whatever it is that I don't find healthy for me anymore. And therefore, there's no conflict, there's no argument, you just end up with a little bit, I've not seen you for ages. Oh yeah, I've been really busy. And then you manage it on that level. But choices are really powerful. Manny was just agreeing with the parents of different, so there was an 8-year gap. Sometimes we need other options bringing into our awareness. Yeah, we do. We do. It's all about awareness, and actually, I'm not here. I'm definitely not here to sell therapy. That's sometimes where therapy can come into its own, because sometimes we end up with we can end up with an objective, different perspective from somebody that has no real agenda with you. I always say to my clients, my only agenda in your world right now is to take you to a place that you want to go. It's to support you on that journey. That is my only agenda. None of it is about me. None of it is about my ego. You can ignore everything I say if you choose to, but there is no ulterior motive. Whereas when we talk to parents and brothers and sisters, there's nearly always not an ulterior motive, but different emotions. So, like sharing something with a sister, for example, that really loves you, then there's just going to be there's going to be more emotions in that. There just is. Just reading the comment. Decision making depends on capacity. If you can't regulate your emotions because of bad childhood experiences or parenting, I'm not sure you can be held fully responsible if your capacity is impacted by your emotional responses created by early experiences. I see exactly where you are there. So in that scenario, what I might gently say, and I would say this so gently, that for me it would be about learning how to regulate your system. So this system here, to regulate your own breathing and regulate your own heart rate, because we can do that. There's one thing, and for everybody that has watched all of these, there's one thing that I talk about constantly. It's the fact that we can regulate our own bodies if we learn how to. If we go and find the resources on how to deep breathe, how to meditate, how to just calm our system. But we can definitely regulate. As children, unless again we're taught directly, which doesn't happen very often, we have little to no chance of regulation of our system, because it's like I say, we don't really get taught. But as adults, we can teach ourselves, or we can get somebody to teach us. We can reach out and we can get that support. And then once we reach out and we get that support, then we can have better control over our thoughts and our feelings, emotions, and actions and behaviors. I know that's it feels a little bit harsh. It's not, it's the truth. We can't blame all of our current life events and experiences and conflicts on something that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. And here's why I would say that, because I want whoever's doing that to live a more peaceful life. I could look back at my childhood and look at stuff that happened, not happened to me, but stuff that happened, and blame a lot of my unhealthy thinking. I could look at my genetics and blame a lot of it on my genetics, and there is a lot of dysfunctional genetic factors there in my history. Or I could choose to learn and grow, and I chose when I was 27 to learn and grow, because I didn't want to live in this mire of just like thoughts and feelings and emotions and anxiety in my head. I didn't want to live like that. I wanted to live more peacefully. I think a compromise often comes into play and affects those choices. Yeah, it can do. It can do, particularly when you're working with loved ones, and particularly when you're working with people that you really care about, because there's just a whole set of different emotions there. But again, and I was doing this for somebody today, we were really having to dig deep and work out what was really happening. And we were interestingly, we were having to look at values. We were looking at certain values and how certain values had affected something, doesn't matter what. And it was just really, really powerful. It was a powerful piece of work. But we went into values. But yeah, compromise. Compromise is a really, really good point. I'm going to move this slide on, because we are in the middle of doing journaling. What time is it? Can I see the time? Oh my goodness. Right, we did the write it down. So Write what you want to do, review, investigate, time for yourself, exit strategically, which I can hardly say. There's scientific research on journaling and writing therapy. There's a ton of evidence out there on the outcomes of journaling, writing therapy, and overall, this evidence points to its effectiveness in helping people identify and accept their emotions, manage their stress, and ease the symptoms of mental illness. Can journaling help manage my depression? Basically, yes, it can. Expressive writing can reduce symptoms of depression in women who are struggling with the aftermath of an unhealthy relationship. Writing in a journal may also be as effective as CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Expressive journaling may not reduce the frequency of intrusive thoughts in depressed individuals, but it moderates their impact on depressive symptoms, leading to a reduction in symptoms. Journaling can help college students who are vulnerable to depression reduce their brooding and rumination. Can't say that. Can't say that either. Contributing factors of depressive symptoms. Overall, the benefits from journaling and expressive writing for those suffering from depression are pretty clear. It gives them the opportunity to release pent-up negative emotions, keeps them in a more positive frame of mind, and helps them build a buffer between their negative thoughts and their sense of well-being. Something I said to somebody earlier today about, and it fits into this journaling here. You know, we talked about journaling earlier and deep breathing and grounding yourself and doing a bit of meditation. The other thing you could do there is you could go for a run, because actually running burns off that energy. And you know, we talked about the layer between this is an imaginary layer, by the way, between the conscious mind and the unconscious, and we're always trying to get into the conscious. Even if we've been for a run, that can burn off some of that energy. So go for a run, have a shower, deep breathe, settle down into the journaling. 5 minutes either side of the day. That's all you would have to do. It's no bigger than that. I don't want you to overthink this, but give it a try. 10 benefits of journaling for anxiety. I'm going to get back to the feed in a minute. Why is it so beneficial for anxiety? It's calming. It's calming and clearing your mind, releasing pent-up feelings and everyday stress, letting go of negative thoughts. It's such a good download. I sometimes refer to it as a download. Exploring your experiences with anxiety, writing about your struggles with success, enhancing your self-awareness and teaching you about your triggers. Ooh, triggers. Remember that one? We should go back over triggers. Tracking your progress as you undergo, as you move forward. The other nice thing about journaling is that we end up with a bit of a record that we can look back. I was working with a client the other day, and she'd been journaling for about 2 years, and she went back in her journal, and she was looking at what she was writing, and then she was looking at what she was writing in now, and she was like, it's like night and day. Just the way I handle everything is just entirely different. It's just absolutely incredible. Right. Agreed. The individual needs to learn and understand the role of physicality and understand that they can make changes. First, they need to trust the teacher, and that can be tough if you have been abused. Absolutely, I completely agree with that. I think particularly for when we're talking about childhood abuse, if the abuser was male, it can be really powerful to go to a male therapist. A lot of females would avoid that, but actually it's a really powerful move, because then you get to develop and trust a male. You get a positive male role model in your life, whereas it might have been really difficult before that. It's interesting that you wrote about trust. On my laptop in front of me there is a phrase, and I can't remember where this phrase came from. I can't remember, but I wrote it down because I just felt it was really powerful, and it says fall in trust. So you know, we use the phrase fall in love. I coined it and said I'm going to use this phrase fall in trust with my therapist, because actually that's what you do. You begin to trust them. You begin to trust that they have no ulterior motive. It's not about their ego. So love the word trust. I wish you could get my sister to learn that we didn't always have the best time growing up, but I learned from it, and to make yourself a better person. You know, that's so powerful. It's so powerful that you were able to do that, because not everybody can. I came from a family of 7, You have to be really careful because I don't know who's watching. And we're all very different. We're all very different. We had the two same parents, although different versions as we were all born, and some pretty shocking genetics, I have to say, both physically and mentally. So no two journeys are the same. Let's leave it there. No two journeys are the same. And when we think about the choices that we were talking about earlier, it can just be those little choices. So do I choose that I want to give up alcohol? Do I choose that I want to stop smoking? Do I choose that I want to go to the gym? Do I choose that I want to be a little bit healthier? Do I choose that I want to eat healthier foods of an evening? All of those little tiny choices have a massive, profound effect on who we are physically and mentally. I was going to really look at resilience this week. What time is it? 47. Oh, it's such a big subject. I don't want to do it an injustice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of questions that some people have sent in. So somebody put, is mental health as important as physical health? If you'd have asked me this about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said, I would have probably guessed that mental health was more important than physical health. But actually, I've grown as well, and now I see them as absolutely equal. They are equally as important because I now understand holistically that if this isn't healthy, then this will have an effect on this. And if this isn't healthy, then this will have an effect on this, and vice versa. Or I think I got that the wrong way around. But you know what I'm saying. So they are equally as important to each other. It's important that we fuel our body with like good nutrition and lots of water and little stimulants, little alcohol and caffeine and stuff like that. But feed it like you were going to feed a Ferrari with really good oil, or I don't know, really a wildebeest, a big lion or tiger. You wouldn't give it a burger from down the road at the shops, would you? You'd want it to have really good quality meat. So yeah, they are equally as important to each other because we are one person. We are not a head, or we're not a mind and a body. We are both. Everything feeds each other. Another question was, why are people often ashamed of mental health? And there's a second part to that. There's a different question, but it's the second part. Can mental health affect physical health? So just to pick up on the second part, yes, it can, as I've just said. If we have poor mental health, it can definitely affect our physical health because it can affect our ability to make good choices. So again, if I'm fairly rational, fairly calm, fairly grounded, then I will choose healthier drinks and healthier food. If my mental health is off, then I'm going to go for more sugary foods, for example. So yeah, absolutely it can. Why are people often ashamed of mental health? Mental health comes with a massive amount of stigma attached to it. Still, it's getting better. It's getting way better. Doing stuff like this really helps, and it's getting way better. But there's still a massive amount of stigma attached to it. I want to see people more and more talk about mental health. I can talk about mine quite openly now. Maybe I can talk about it because I'm in a good place, fairly solid place, and you would expect I'm in a solid place given that I do what I do. But I will honestly say that every day I have to kind of check where I'm at, and I have to check where my mental health is at, and I have to, if it is slightly off, then I have to check why is it off? What have I done, or what have I not done? Have I exercised? Have I done some sort of stillness? Remember, every day the body needs movement and stillness in the same 24 hours. So it needs some sort of energetic movement, just like a fast walk or being outside, and then it needs a level of stillness. It needs those two things. This part here needs moving, and it needs all the endocrine system. It needs that moving around and pushing around, and the oxygen moving around, and everything moving. And this part here needs stillness. So the mind needs stillness, the body needs movement, a period of every day. Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for that. What's your thoughts on how long to keep old journals? Oh, I used to keep a diary when I was early 20s. I think early 20s, late 20s, I used to keep a diary. I'd forgotten I did that. And actually, I came across one in the garage the other day. And I flicked through it. And I meant to tear the pages out and throw it. But I don't think I did. So what I'd say to you is, I'd say this about anything. If you have something in your hand that you want to throw, poor little stapler, and it doesn't feel right, then put it away. If you're keeping old journals, then I'd say keep them really, really safe. Like really, really safe. So safe that hardly you know where they are. Okay? But it really has to be a personal choice. If it doesn't feel safe, then burn them. But if you want to lock them up to keep them safe, then do that as well. Honestly, it has to be your choice. Such a difficult. That sounds like a cop-out answer. It's not, but it really does have to be your choice. I hope that helps. Mandy's put, I love fall in trust with me, that aligns strongly with my values. I think I fell in trust with my partner before I fell in love. Now I reflect. Trust and respect are on many levels far more important to me than love is. Particularly respect. Whenever I think about love and respect, actually respect is far, far more important to me. Than it's more important that I'm respected than I am loved. Because for me, respect is the foundation of love. Without there being a level of respect there, it almost feels like the love is quite fluffy and not very grounded. That makes sense? Right, let's finish off with, where's it gone? Some journaling. Benefits of journaling for stress management. Besides the outcomes listed above, journaling can also help manage your stress by decreasing symptoms of various health conditions, improving your cognitive functioning. So remember, as we're writing it down, we're using the mind and it's very cognitive. Strengthening your immune system. Why does it strengthen your immune system? Because we're offloading here, and as we offload here, our immune system stands more of a chance. Remember that stress and anxiety, as we've looked at over the past few weeks, stress and anxiety are very, very unhealthy for our immune system. It was really quite bizarre when the whole corona thing started, that everybody got very stressed and very anxious, and it was the one thing that we shouldn't have been doing, because it was just compromising our immune system. I know it's hard not to, but when I kept talking to people, I was like, being calm is better. It will strengthen your immune system, so there's less chance that you'll pick the virus up. Examining your thoughts and shifting your perspective. Reducing rumination and promoting action. Because as we journal and as we write things down and as we go, we kind of meander over things very gently, then there's more chance that the answer that we might have been looking for all of a sudden pops up. And planning your options and considering multiple outcomes of a situation. Keeping your journal can help you fully explore your emotions, release tension, and fully integrate your experiences into your mind. Remember the phrase that I used in the beginning, it's like building a relationship with your mind, directly with your mind. Let me reiterate this part because it was important. When we sit and think about something and try and work something through, not everybody has that ability, that emotional ability to be able to do that. But when we take to paper, we definitely do. So if you had, I bought this the other week. Let me show you this because I have a pile of pads here. I have a pile of pads, and I just kept picking up pads and writing stuff down. So it's like imagine a file of facts. So it's like a file of facts. It's just soft felt onto something soft, and then inside it has some tabs, and it's just paper. It's just lined paper. And I wanted it because so now I have sections. So the first one is lockdown lives. So that's all my lockdown live information, what I do every day and what subjects I'm covering. And then Helen Ellison has her own section from Newark and Sherwood District Council. And then Home Radio have their own section as well, because I know that whenever I'm talking to those people, I can dip in there and just go straight to that section, as opposed to a pad which is all over the place. And actually, that would make a really nice journal. If that was safe in your house, in your place of living, then that would make quite a nice journal. It's just, for me, I wanted something that was quite adaptable. Or you could just use a pad. You could just use a pad. Over the next couple of years, I'd really like to develop a journal, and I'd like it to be a combination of a journal and some of the analogies that I use in therapy. I'd really like to pull those into one really nice kind of gift-like type journal. So watch this space for that one. Journaling. Journaling for gratitude. Oh, here we go again with gratitude. So you might, what are the benefits for writing with gratitude? You might get a quicker answer if you asked, what aren't the benefits of writing with gratitude? Cultivating gratitude has always been shown to be extremely effective tool for reaching all kinds of goals and improving the quality of life. However, you don't necessarily need to write to cultivate gratitude. There are lots of ways to be more grateful. Luckily, applying gratitude specifically through writing can contribute to one of the most general benefits of increasing gratitude. And the outcomes reported are from gratitude journaling include boosting your long-term well-being, encouraging exercise, reducing physical pain and symptoms, and increasing both length and quality of sleep, increasing your optimism and indirectly your happiness and health, reducing your symptoms of depression for as long as you continue, helping you make progress towards your goals, making you friendlier, more open, and more likely to engage in pro-social behaviors, which can enhance and expand your social support network. We talk about gratitude an awful lot in here, and oh my God, we talk about it all the time because we know it's really, really powerful. So if you wanted to journal with gratitude, one of the things I would use if I was developing one, it was I would have 3 points of gratitude every day. So as you went to your journal, you were prompted to write down 3 points of gratitude. It's just powerful. You heard the list of why it's so powerful there. It literally can shift our minds. And when we, as I say, often when we look at gratitude, we are looking at things like having a tin of beans in the cupboard, having hot water, having towels, having a bed to sleep in, having a roof over our heads. We are not looking for massive, massive changes. Okay? Sorry. I have what I call my happy places. I like to go to and work through things. More so now working in the NHS. It's really important that we have that visualization of being able to take ourselves to really nice places. And that's what I was saying earlier about us being in charge and being able to regulate our own system. Don't forget the butterfly hug. Trying to catch my mic. Gentle tapping either side. Close your eyes and take yourself to a really, really safe and peaceful place. It could be safe or peaceful, or it could be both. And visualize it, smell it, imagine how it feels below your feet. Imagine how it looks as you close your eyes and visualize. And if we practice doing that, then all of a sudden our mind settles because it almost feels like we have taken ourselves there. If you've ever used a pair of VR goggles, virtual reality goggles, you'll know how easy it is to trick the mind. And if you haven't and you get a chance, use some. Time's at 59. It's time to go. Sorry. So just to recap, journaling is powerful. I've read out to you there all of the reasons it is really powerful. So good for us. Okay, so give it a try. What I always say about things like this is test it. Just give it a little bit of a test. Okay. We will go back to resilience next week. I'll look at it next week. I have no idea where the time went to tonight. We spent a lot of time on choices, which is great because actually choices is also really, really important. And it's important that we recognize that every day that we are lucky enough to wake up, and every day that we are lucky enough to wake up breathing, because it is like a gift, that each one of those days is full of choices. I will be back. Don't forget the lockdown lives at 8:15 in the morning. Tomorrow's a pre-record, but it will go out at 8:15, and then I'm back on Friday and Saturday. I'm back on Tuesday. I'm back here next Wednesday at 7 o'clock for another Wellness Wednesday. Don't forget, we just have 4 left. 4 left, but the closer we get to them finishing, the closer we are to summer. Yes. How exciting is that? So thank you again for your absolutely amazing input. You are incredible. I also feel quite humbled and honoured to be able to sit here in this position and talk with you, amazing people. So if you feel that this is helpful, then please share it with other people or get people into the room. It's there. My Facebook page is full of resources. I have a YouTube channel that is full of all the same resources. So for people that aren't using social media, please send them across to YouTube. If they search for Guthrie Therapy, they'll find all of these recordings on there. Okay. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely week if I don't see you till next week. Be kind to yourself and be kind to everybody around you. Peace and love. Bye-bye.